All right, let me do a little intro. All right, what's going on, everyone? I'm John, and I am your host of the Water Seed Podcast. Now, today is super special. Today is the very first episode, and I have a super special guest for you. I got my man Dex. Dex, go ahead, give a shout out to everybody.
Hey guys, I'm Dex. If you want to look for me on Google, it's Dexter Doyle, and I'm based out of Silver Spring, Maryland. I grew up here. I lived in New York as well, but it's good to be back in the area.
Hey, shout out to Dex and shout out to everybody that's listening and watching. So, everyone, by this being the first episode, I feel as if I should tell you all the reason why we are here. So, me personally, I'm a fifth grade teacher in Washington, D.C. And on the first week of school, we asked the students, what do you want to do when you get older? And what do you want to do right now? And these kids gave amazing responses. So we created this podcast to try to expose you all to all the marvelous, wonderful opportunities in the world. So with that being said, Dex, the first question is, what is one of your favorite memories from school?
Okay. One of my favorite memories from school was fourth grade on to actually when I graduated from high school was my mother, she put me into band class. So it was one of those in which I played a clarinet from 4th to 12th. And then once I got to high school, I actually, the instructor forced everybody to join marching band, which I didn't really know anything about marching band. The instructor was from Grambling, so down south. And it was just really fun just being able to play hip hop and R&B tunes while on the clarinet and be a part of that marching band and be able to see football games and just get that exposure of even just being a part of a bigger squad, I would say. And even around that time was when Drumline came out. So I want to be Nick Cannon. So I started playing the bass drum and everything. So it was just fun just being able to dive deeper into my passion of music.
Hey, that's pretty cool for sharing, man. Thank you for sharing that. And shout out to all the woodwind instruments and that whole woodwind family. Excellent. All right. So Dex, the next question is, what is your career and what do you do?
Mm-hmm. So my current career is related to technology in the IT field, in which I do technical sales. How I would describe that is, so you have a salesperson who, that person may just know more about the contracts and sort of signing deals and working with clients. I'm the guy who has to do demos, presentations, and really know about the technology. So a lot of times, training wise, it's just being aware of what's new and what's hot in the IT world. So if you like video games, that's sort of why I sort of gravitated to this field.
Yes. Listen, just from talking to my students every day, they love Fortnite. They love all the video games. Yes. And we taught them how to make PowerPoint presentations. So I think that connects to what you're currently doing.
Okay.
All right. So let's keep it moving. The third question is, describe your journey into this field.
Okay. So I always loved computers and video games. So when I was younger, my parents never bought me a video game system for a while. So my first system was a Game Boy, and then I'll play computer games. Finally, my brother got me a PlayStation. So I was tinkering around with the video games. So then that ended up me, when I went to college, thinking about what field would be comparable to that. So that was computer science. So I did programming. I was pretty good at the beginning of it, but I never wanted to be a quote code monkey, somebody who just programs for hours, those people drinking Red Bulls and stuff. So it was how can I use these skills and do something more with that? So then I got an internship at IBM my senior year in college, and this was in Gaithersburg, Maryland. And I was doing, installing software, configuring systems for them. And from my internship, that got me a full-time job at IBM. So the one benefit of this job that I currently had at IBM was I had no programming at all. And it was all just based off of knowing the technology.
Hey, man, thank you for sharing about the whole internship. Let me ask you a follow-up question. How did you find out about the internship?
So the internship, this is one thing that I would recommend anybody to do, in which when I was at college, one of my close friends, his name was Reggie, his dad used to work at IBM. So he put me on to one of his friends. And it's one of those in which you really should utilize your network in a sense that sometimes you're unaware of these opportunities. So his friend told me about, he sort of pointed me to the IBM website like it wasn't even a referral or anything, but he showed me different job roles. So by him sort of exposing me to a website, showing me roles that would be meeting my skill set, then I applied through that. So it's all about just utilizing your network.
Mm. And Dex, for all those that are listening and watching, would you mind doing me a favor and explaining what an internship is?
Yes. So an internship is, thing about that is not a full-time job. So when I did it, it was like a summertime in which you work for a certain amount of periods. It could be maybe 3 months. And it's almost like a trial period in which you get exposure to a job role. So you get to see whether you like it or not. Also, a client or a company gets to see whether you're a good fit for that. So that a lot of times, depending on your performance at an internship, that can lead to a full-time job, or it can just give you a little bit of taste of like, oh, I enjoy doing this part of the job, but I don't really want to be there for my career. So then I can look at another internship. So I definitely promote doing multiple internships, because like during my college career, that was my last internship, but I had 2 or 3 other internships at other nonprofit companies just to be like their IT administrator. So
Hey man, shout out to Dex, man, and shout out to the whole idea of networking. Super important. All right. So for question 4, it reads, what education or training is required for your current role?
okay, so I would say first I want to say there's a misconception in which IT, some people feel like you have to be a computer science major, and that's incorrect. In which a lot of my peers, they were majored in business. I even had a peer that had a major in music. It's really about just being able to sometimes get certificates. So like there's ways of being able to test your knowledge IT wise that you can use. And I would also say that you just have to be able to be comfortable with technology and software. So a lot of times people are afraid because they think that a lot of times, we even when I was at IBM, it was like the lingo, a lot of acronyms. People use these terms to be, sort of intimidate people. When at the end of the day, technology can be very simple if you're able to explain it. So I would say just being able to understand the technology, being able to discuss it in terms that anybody can understand. So explain it to your parents. Like my dad's is in his 70s. So if I can be able to explain something to him, then I'm doing a good job. So if you have that background, I think it would be really great in the role that I'm in right now.
Hey, that's super important that you said that. Dex, question 5 is, what difference do you want to make to this world?
Okay, so this is very important. In which so from college, I realized that my passions were music, business, and community service. In which those were the 3 things that I really actively did. So even when I first joined IBM in 2009, my goal was to work with media entertainment companies. I was like, well, if I'm helping them use technology and sort of advance their organizations, I'd be happy. But what I really want to do is really show that technology, like how STEM is really being built up with, a lot of the children. So if I can provide service in that sense of being able to show them that, you have me, who I'm still in my young 30s and a Black man, that I'm in the IT field, I'm able to be successful, that they can be as well, because IT is not going to go anywhere. It's just going to keep on growing. So we need more Black, Latinos, Asians, everybody, minorities to be in this field, because we don't want to miss out on these opportunities, especially because the IT fields are the ones that are paying a lot. So it's one of those in which you want to be able to set yourself off that you're well versed. So like, I'll give you an example in which my niece, she went to Howard, and originally she was a architect major. But after talking to me, she switched off to be a computer science major. So she got an internship at Intel. She's pretty much almost surpassing me in a sense in which she's younger than me, but she even is deeper in the computer science field. So like by switching from an architect major to a computer science major, she opened up her opportunities, especially being a Black female. So it was pretty great that she was able to utilize that.
Hey, shout out to you though, and your niece. It's super important, Dex, and thank you for sharing all of this wonderful information. Now, when we first started this episode, in the beginning, you mentioned a few ways that people can connect with you. Are there any other ways that people can connect with you, reach out, ask you any questions, or even network?
Yeah, so I'm on LinkedIn, so Dexter Doyle. I'm also, I told you my passion is music, so on Instagram, it's at the number 3X Dex. So I have a DJ, um, I guess myself a DJ company in the sense that I put out DJ mixes. I'm also on Facebook, but the easiest way would be either Instagram, LinkedIn, and even on Twitter, it's at 3X Dex as well.
Oh, and Dex, that's something super important that you mentioned. Um, from my understanding, that means you have two passions, two jobs, tech and music, DJing. So,
Yes.
Dex, if you don't mind me asking, how did you get into the DJing?
So DJing was back to college. So when I was at college, there was an organization called Black Box, and it was a we threw parties every Friday night. So it was really supposed to be, it was creating these parties for other students, and from that, it was like if I was throwing parties, I would see the DJs, and by the time I became a junior in college, I realized like these DJs are graduating, they're great. Let me buy some equipment. This is back in 2008. So then I bought some equipment. I started teaching myself in 2009. And I would say the biggest thing that I realized that really helped me with DJing was playing the clarinet and being in band from fourth to 12th, because it was like there was a time that just clicked to me in which like I used to hate practicing the clarinet, but then it was like the measures and everything, the sort of the terminology, like how people talk about bars, it's pretty much just measures. So when you sort of have that down, you sort of know exactly where you have to do a transition and everything on a DJ, and that sort of got me to another level as a DJ, and I've just been doing that since as a you could say a side hustle or my second passion, which I do that on a weekly basis. But if I didn't have DJing, then I feel like my full-time job would be less bearable, because since I'm not doing music at IBM at all. So
Super important. I love how you turn your love into a source of income. All right, Dex. Now, for one of my favorite parts of the show is rapid fire.
okay.
So I'm gonna ask you a few questions, and let's see, can you answer these? All right. The first question is fiction or nonfiction?
Nonfiction.
I love it. Same here. Question two, name one teacher from kindergarten through 12th grade.
Okay. Mr. Jones, that was my band instructor.
Shout out to Mr. Jones. All right. Question three, describe your favorite lunch from school.
My favorite lunch was French fries with Old Bay sauce. You sprinkled the Old Bay sauce with some ketchup, and that was pretty nice.
All right. Question four, name a great musical album.
Oof. So I would say the album that I listened to senior year of high school was A Tribe Called Quest, Midnight Marauders.
Okay. Shout out to Tribe Called Quest. All right. And then question five, the last one. Shout out an HBCU.
Howard.
Shout out, go Howard. All right, Dex. And for the last question for the episode, if you could assign any homework to our friends watching or listening to help them accomplish their dreams, what would it be?
So the homework I would assign that I talked to other friends about this is really just trying to go deep into what's your passion, like what do you want to do in life, in which a lot of times, like I'll give you a personal story in that before 30, I felt like I really wasn't living per se, in which I was sort of just doing the things, the motions, sort of doing things that like maybe I thought my parents wanted me to do, in which, I had never had parents that were controlling. Like my parents were never like, oh, I need you to be a doctor or anything, but they always pushed education. So like when I became 30, it was one of those in which I sort of took back my life and sort of sat down and thought about what do I want to do? And that went back to my passions of music, business and service, and how can I do that? Because, for example, I had my job at IBM, in which I'll be very candid, in which I left my job at IBM earlier this month because I felt that when I went into IBM, I wanted to work with music companies, but I wasn't going to be able to have that opportunity at IBM. So I looked at other jobs to see what would be a better fit to get me to that goal of myself. So it's one of those in which hold yourself to those goals. Don't be comfortable, but really you have to think about it, because you can't let anybody else dictate your life and set those goals for you. It's going to come internally from yourself. So take your time. You may not know that, but I would say if you're young, you may find those goals in college. But even when I was young, I was doing band class. So if you think about it, there's certain aspects that you like, whether you like basketball, sports, video games, and just those may be your goals that are going to surface out when you get older, and really just hold yourself to be like, I will feel fulfilled if I'm able to be in this role. And it may not be the exact fit, but try to get as close as possible. And that would be the homework. Just find your passion.
Ooh, Dex, that's amazing. So, Dex, that is the end of our first episode. I just want to thank you for volunteering. Everyone, Dex was the first person to respond. No questions asked. He said, let's do it. And listen, I love him for that. So, Dex, shout out to you and shout out to everybody listening.